Lao Tzu's stress-free lifestyle, it's easier than you think. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with absolutely no stress, no worries about deadlines, no anxiety about the future, no frustration over things you cannot control. Just an effortless flow through life where every moment feels aligned, natural, and peaceful. It sounds like a dream, right? But what if I told you that this isn't just some idealistic fantasy, it's an actual way of living taught by one of the greatest philosophers of all time? Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese sage and author of the Tao Te Ching, left behind a blueprint for a stress-free life, one that is far easier to implement than you might think. And today, we're going to explore exactly how to do it. Now, before you dismiss this as just another vague "just be calm" philosophy, let me make one thing clear. Lao Tzu's wisdom is not about ignoring problems or pretending stress doesn't exist. It's about a radical shift in how we approach life itself. It's about understanding the flow of the universe, what he called the Tao, and aligning ourselves with it instead of fighting against it. Think about it. How much of our stress comes from trying to force things to go our way? How often do we resist reality, clinging to expectations that only make us miserable when they aren't met? The moment we realize that stress isn't something happening to us, but something we are creating through resistance, everything begins to change.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Let's start with one of Lao Tzu's most famous ideas, Wu Wei. This is often translated as effortless action or non-doing, but don't be fooled, it doesn't mean laziness or passivity. But imagine a river flowing effortlessly through a valley. It doesn't struggle, it doesn't force its way forward, yet it carves through mountains over time. That's Wu Wei. It's the idea that the most effective way to live is not through constant struggle, but through harmony with the natural flow of life. Think about it. When have you been at your best? Was it in moments of extreme effort and stress, or was it when things just seemed to click? When you were in the zone, fully present, responding to life's challenges with ease instead of tension. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that stress equals productivity, that struggle equals success. But Lao Tzu would argue that true mastery comes from knowing when to act and when to let go. Picture an archer trying to hit a target. If they grip the bow too tightly, tense their arms, and overthink the shot, they're likely to miss. But if they trust their training, relax, and flow with the motion, their accuracy increases. The same applies to life. How much are you gripping right now? How much are you trying to force things instead of allowing them to unfold? Now, this raises an interesting question. If we stop forcing, does that mean we just let life happen to us? Absolutely not. Lao Tzu teaches that when we align with the Tao, we act with clarity rather than control. Stress comes from trying to control things that are beyond our power: other people, the future, the outcome of our efforts. But what if we redefined success? What if success wasn't about forcing a specific result, but about being fully present and giving our best effort without attachment? Think about the last time you felt frustrated. Maybe you were stuck in traffic, or someone didn't respond to you the way you wanted. What was really happening? Your frustration didn't come from the event itself, it came from your expectation that things should be different. But here's the mind-blowing part. Reality never loses. It is what it is. You can resist it and suffer, or you can accept it and find peace. Which one sounds like the better deal? This doesn't mean we stop striving for a better life. It means we stop resisting what is while we move toward what can be. It's the difference between fighting the current and skillfully navigating the river. Some things are within our control, and some things aren't. Wisdom is knowing the difference. And that brings us to a crucial insight. Most of our stress isn't about the present moment, it's about our thoughts about the present moment. Have you ever noticed that when you're fully engaged in something, whether it's playing a sport, making art, or even just laughing with friends, stress disappears? That's because stress isn't inherent in life. It's something our minds create when we step out of the present and into worry, regret, or resistance. Lao Tzu's wisdom helps us return to the present, where life is always simpler than we make it out to be. Now, before we continue, here's a question for you. If you could let go of just one source of stress today, something you've been holding on to that isn't serving you, what would it be? And more importantly, why are you still holding on to it? The illusion of control. Why letting go is the ultimate power. We live under a grand illusion, one that tells us we are in control. We make plans, set goals, and expect the world to bend to our will. And when it doesn't, well, we suffer, we stress, we fight reality as if our resistance will somehow change the way things are. But here's the paradox: the more we try to control everything, the more out of control we feel. Lao Tzu understood this deeply. He taught that true power doesn't come from domination or force, it comes from surrendering to the natural flow of life. Now, surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means recognizing what is within our power and what isn't, and then acting with wisdom rather than desperation. Think about how much of your stress comes from things outside your control. Maybe it's other people's opinions, unexpected obstacles, or the passage of time itself. When we cling to control, we are constantly at war with life. But what if we flip the script? What if, instead of resisting, we trusted? Lao Tzu often used water as a metaphor for wisdom. Water doesn't resist obstacles, it flows around them, over them, even through them in time. And yet, for all its softness, it is unstoppable. The Grand Canyon wasn't carved by force or resistance, it was shaped by the patient persistence of flowing water. But what if we lived the same way? What if, instead of exhausting ourselves trying to force life to comply with our expectations, we adapted, adjusted, and flowed with what is? This raises a powerful question. What are you currently gripping too tightly? Maybe it's a relationship, a career path, or even an identity you've outgrown. The tighter we hold on, the more we suffer. But here's the secret: letting go isn't about losing, it's about opening up to something greater. When we release our need for rigid control, we create space for new possibilities, new insights, and new opportunities that we never could have imagined when we were fixated on a single outcome. The universe is always shifting, always moving, and the more we trust in its natural rhythm, the more effortlessly life unfolds. Now, let's talk about fear, because fear is what keeps us clinging to control. We fear uncertainty, we fear loss, we fear that if we don't hold on tightly enough, everything will fall apart. But has this ever really worked? Has controlling every detail of your life ever truly brought you peace? Or has it only made you more anxious, more reactive, more exhausted? Lao Tzu reminds us that security is an illusion. Everything in life is impermanent: our possessions, our achievements, even our very identities. The more we try to hold on to things, the more we suffer when they inevitably change. But if we embrace change, if we learn to move with life instead of against it, We discover a deeper kind of stability, one that isn't based on external circumstances, but on inner peace. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine you're holding a handful of sand. If you grip it tightly, trying to keep every grain in place, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, with an open palm, it remains. Life works the same way. The more we try to control, the more we lose. But when we trust, when we relax our grip, life has a way of taking care of itself. So ask yourself, where in your life are you resisting the natural flow? What would happen if you loosened your grip, even just a little? What if, instead of fighting to control everything, you focused on adapting, responding, and trusting the process? The greatest power is not in force, but in flow. The question is, are you ready to let go? Effortless success. How doing less can achieve more. We live in a world that glorifies effort, struggle, and relentless hustle. We are told that if we aren't constantly pushing, grinding, and forcing progress, we are falling behind. But have you ever stopped to question this? Have you ever noticed that some of the most successful, creative, and fulfilled people seem to move through life effortlessly, while others burn themselves out with endless striving and achieve very little? Lao Tzu understood this paradox long before modern productivity hacks and self-help movements. He taught that real success doesn't come from force, it comes from alignment. And when we align with the natural rhythms of life, things begin to unfold with surprising ease. This is the essence of Wu Wei, the principle of effortless action. It's not about doing nothing, it's about doing the right things in the right way at the right time. Think about how nature works. The sun doesn't struggle to shine. A tree doesn't force itself to grow. The seasons don't fight to change. And yet, everything happens perfectly, in its own time, without resistance. What if we lived the same way? What if, instead of forcing outcomes, we learned to move with the natural flow of events? What if we trusted that the right opportunities, the right people, the right breakthroughs will come not through stress, but through clarity and presence? Consider a time in your life when things just seemed to fall into place. Maybe it was meeting the right person at the right moment, discovering a new passion effortlessly, or finding an opportunity that seemed to appear out of nowhere. These moments weren't forced, they happened because you were in sync with the flow of life. Now contrast that with times when you struggled, when you pushed so hard that nothing seemed to work, when every step felt like an uphill battle. What was the real difference? More often than not, the difference wasn't in how much effort you exerted, but in whether or not you were aligned with the right path. This doesn't mean we stop working or pursuing goals. It means we shift our approach. Instead of forcing, we listen. Instead of pushing, we allow. Instead of clinging to a rigid plan, we remain open to the unexpected. Because here's the truth, life is always speaking to us. It's always giving us signs, nudging us in certain directions, revealing paths that are easier, more natural, more fulfilling. But we miss these signs when we're too busy forcing our own agenda. We ignore them when we're consumed by stress and overthinking. The moment we relax, the moment we let go of the need to control everything, we start to see. We start to notice the subtle opportunities, the effortless connections, the unexpected solutions that were there all along. Think about water again. It doesn't fight obstacles, it flows around them. And yet, it reaches its destination without struggle. What if, instead of banging on closed doors, we redirected our energy toward the doors that are already open? What if, instead of exhausting ourselves trying to force things to happen, We focused on being in the right state of mind, the right energy, the right alignment, so that things naturally happen for us. So here's a challenge. What is one thing in your life that you've been forcing? What would happen if you stepped back, if you stopped pushing so hard, if you trusted that the right path will reveal itself when the time is right? What if success isn't about doing more, but about doing less with greater awareness and wisdom? The universe is already moving. The question is, are you flowing with it, or are you fighting against it? The art of living, finding freedom in the present moment. If there is one lesson that Lao Tzu left behind that can truly change everything, it is this: life is always happening now, not in the past, which is nothing more than a collection of memories. Not in the future, which is nothing more than a projection of our thoughts, but right here, in this very moment. And yet, how often do we actually live here? Most of us are trapped in a mental time machine, constantly revisiting old regrets or worrying about what's ahead, missing the only thing that is ever real, the now. The irony is that our endless thinking is what creates most of our stress, not life itself. Life in its raw state is simple. It is our resistance to it that makes it feel complicated. Lao Tzu understood that true freedom comes not from external achievements, possessions, or even control over our circumstances, but from an internal state of being fully present. There is a reason why children experience life with such wonder and joy. They are here. They aren't replaying past mistakes or imagining worst-case scenarios. They are fully immersed in whatever they are doing. A child playing in the sand isn't thinking about how much time they have left before dinner. They are simply playing. And yet, as we grow older, we lose this ability. We replace presence with planning, wonder with worry. But the truth is, nothing has changed except our minds. The world is still full of wonder. Every moment still holds beauty. But we are too distracted to see it. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly felt the present moment? When was the last time you looked at the sky without thinking about something else? When was the last time you ate a meal without scrolling through your phone, or listened to music without your mind racing somewhere else? We have become so conditioned to chase the next thing that we have forgotten how to simply be. But here's the secret. Everything you are looking for, peace, happiness, fulfillment, is already here. It has always been here. You just have to slow down enough to notice it. This is where the stress-free lifestyle of Lao Tzu becomes more than just a philosophy. It becomes a way of being. When we stop resisting the present moment, we find that life is neither good nor bad. It simply is. And within this isness, there is an incredible sense of freedom. No longer do we need things to go a certain way in order to feel at peace. No longer do we need to control every outcome to feel secure. We realize that we are already complete, already whole, already enough, because the present moment is enough. This doesn't mean we stop having goals or aspirations. It means we stop attaching our happiness to them. It means we stop believing that peace will come someday when everything is perfect, because that day never comes. There will always be something else to chase, another problem to solve, another thing to fix. But what if we could be free now, even in the midst of unfinished business? What if we could find joy, not in the absence of problems, but in the simple act of being alive? So here's the final question. What if you stopped waiting? What if you stopped postponing your peace, your happiness, your sense of fulfillment? What if you let go of the illusion that something needs to change before you can truly live? Because the truth is, life is not waiting for you to figure it all out. It is happening now. The only question is, are you here for it?